I think we can put it in the shocking but not surprising category, like so many of these things. I was double checking when the story broke last year about the WhatsApp group at Behag. That was January last year, actually. And I don't see what's going on with Grok as too dissimilar to that. I see it in the same sort of sphere, really. Clearly, as a society, we have sort of stood still, whereas the technology hasn't. And as ever, we're dealing with an industry that 20 years in the making still believes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, put these things out there, and we have a demographic who, because they're children, don't have the powers of critical thinking to think, is this a good or bad thing to be doing? They're just doing the doing, and are getting themselves into all sorts of trouble as a consequence, including potential criminality.
Jessica, what was your view on this?
A bit like John, I was shocked but not surprised. I guess I saw it as an inevitability when we're not, educating our young people, educating ourselves. The fact that these tools exist and they can do this is disgusting. But again, it doesn't surprise me because of the social media, everything that's gone before it. I think everyone's been chattering about how it's all evolving and nobody's putting safeguardings in, and this is another sad consequence of this happening.
And Meghan, we know you were fundamental in setting up this Facebook page back in the day. What was your take on all of this, and what have you heard this week from other like-minded parents?
I'm just really saddened by it, really, that children continue to be the victims of this unmoderated software.
I believe you've come off social media recently. What was it that prompted that move?
I think it was my own attention span, really, and trying to model best practice for my children. I think it's really easy for me to shout about being wary of social media, but when I'm spending so much time on it myself, it's very hypocritical. But you know what? I've gained so much for not being on it. I've found that I have more time. I'm less distracted. I'm certainly less anxious and concerned. I can focus a lot more. I'm so much more present with my children and my family and the people I want to be present with, because I've not got that consistent nag in the back of my mind that there might be something really interesting online that I want to see. And I know that I'm not the only person of my age and my generation who's making this move to come offline and off social media. So many people that I speak to have made the same decision and feel so much better because of it. And life has actually got bigger. It's not got smaller, if that makes sense. So I feel liberated. I think that is the right word.
Now I'm going to open this question back up to John. I know you were mentioning overseas, looking at the reaction to this AI story. And we spoke to you not long ago about what Australia was doing. And there has been some murmurs of possibly something happening across the water, hasn't there?
There has. And when you've got certainly the opposition party saying that this is something, it's effectively become a manifesto pledge, albeit they're not quite in an election cycle just yet. And then the Prime Minister moved on Tuesday to sort of move his stance from something that, we're looking and watching what's going on in Australia to, no, this is something that we will actively consider. And, our hope on a local level is that if there is a move made in the UK, then our government follows. I do still think that this could be one of those things that the government leans into that small, independent, agile sort of mindset that we hear when it comes to other legislations. I know it's a big one. I know it is a big one. So in the absence of legislation, I think what I'd say again is I still see that a lot of parents, when it comes to giving their child a smartphone, it's almost like an absent-minded decision. They've upgraded, so they've got a phone handy. I just want people to realise that when they're about to make that decision, they are really, really at a fork in the road. Your child's life will not be the same when you've handed them that smartphone. So it just has to be a considered decision in every single instance. And that's all I'd ask of anyone that's listening to this. It shouldn't be an absent-minded thing because all the other 12-year-olds have got one or 13-year-olds have got one. It is a real fork-in-the-road moment for the relationship between you and your child and your child's relationship with the world, as this week has highlighted.
When we spoke last summer, we spoke about the childhood-free, the smartphone-free childhood pact, and Jessica, you were citing some stats before, something that's going to Parliament across, is that right?
Yeah, they've, on the back of, I believe, Keir Starmer saying that he was considering increasing the age to putting a social media ban for under 16s and the cross-party collaboration. They've pounced on it and they're encouraging, they've produced a pre-formatted email, you put your postcode in, and they've got 150,000 concerned parents have emailed their MPs. So that's every MP has got at least one, if not more, emails from concerned parents. So we all feel the same way, I think. I think we all feel a little bit isolated, some of the powers of conversation or the polarity, but we all feel the same way. And I just urge parents to, if you've got a concern, chat to someone you think might be like-minded. I think you'll find that we all feel the same way, but are too scared to put our heads above the parapet. And I think their stat is that if 25% of your class will agree not to give a phone, that's the tipping point. And that's not that many in our small schools to think about, changing our children's future.
That's so motivating, Jess, and what an encouraging thing to hear that it only takes a handful of parents and a few small conversations could make the biggest difference, not to your child, but to every child in that class or that year.
Absolutely. And we did see on the Facebook page this week, there was a parent who came out and said, my child doesn't have WhatsApp and he's getting particularly concerned about not being invited to hangouts and that kind of thing. That is a challenge, isn't it? It has to be said, whether we look at banning smartphones or not. How do we keep it so that children can? Because back in the day, it would have been a phone on the landline, or you just go around and knock on the door, wouldn't it? But in these times, it seems to be if you're not online, you're possibly cutting yourself off.
I think there are a couple of options there. The most practical, I think, is, well, it's something we've done in our house, actually. So we have a dumb phone, like an old school Nokia, that we keep in the house, and it acts like a smartphone, and it doesn't access the internet, and it sends calls and texts, and that's it. And that seems to me, and this is my own personal opinion, like a really easy and safe way to give your child the opportunity to contact their friends without being exposed to the internet, and also WhatsApp groups, which can sometimes be as destructive as any other social media platform. I'm sure there are lots of other ways as well, but that's how we've tackled it in our house.
And again, so finally, looking back at the news that we've been hearing over the past week or so, do you think this is extra onus now for parents to really think about this?
I think, there's a statistic that Ofcom put out in December last year, which is that the average adult, this is across the UK, I can't imagine that the Isle of Man will be too different. The average adult spends 4 hours 31 a day online. That's just shy of 1,900 minutes a week.
Jess is holding up
They say 5 hours. Well,
That's teenagers, yeah.
1% of that time is 20 odd minutes. So of that 1,900, 2,000 minutes a week you're spending online, just use 1% of that to find these stories or just educate yourself around this topic. Because, as I say, it should not be a thoughtless decision to give your child one of these things. Just going back to what you said about their children feeling as though they're being alienated by not being in groups, or they feel as though they're missing out. And I understand that. I can tell you now that my own friendships as a 45-year-old man have suffered because I'm not online. I don't have the same bond that I did have with the people that I grew up around. Absolutely not. But there are probably no parents, I would imagine, on the Isle of Man that grew up with smartphones in their pockets. They'll have grown up with the internet, but not smartphones in their pockets. And they will remember that pre-smartphone, we were not sat round chucking mud at each other. We did do stuff. Stuff happened. We weren't waiting for someone to invent the smartphone. So, just recalling those experiences and encouraging those behaviours, you'll probably find that kids will get by. They're pretty adaptable and pretty resilient.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage parents, like John says, it is a fork in the road moment, but we want to acknowledge it as a group here that we know that it's hard. But we support you in that kind of difficult decision, and we're confident that you're not alone, and just encourage you to have conversations with the parents that are in the playground or the mums and dads that you're friends with, just ask the question, what are your thoughts on smartphones? And like Jess says, we guarantee that you're not the only one having concerns. And if we stick together and have these conversations, it will make life so much easier for us as parents and our children's life so much better.
The only thing I would say is thank you to Manx Radio for keeping this in the public domain.
Definitely.
You're really good for having us in and talking to you on a number of different topics, all around the same sort of, it's underpinned by the same cause, as it were. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys giving us the time of day. Thank you.
I think back to, so it's out of editorial order, but I think part of the reason I didn't find the imaging, you've also, I don't know whether a lot of us are aware of the AI chatbots and the risk of the grooming, them grooming, interfering with parents' bonds. I think AI could be a fantastic tool for all of us, including children, used correctly. I think we need better teaching. I'd urge the people that know about AI to try and help the people that don't know about AI to say, how can we use it in a really useful way? But I think as parents, you've also just got to be very cautious of the chatbots and the risk of grooming, and make sure that you're having conversations with your children about AI, potential online friends not being friends. As I say, there's been so many reports of children committing suicide, sadly, from it all. I think the imagery is just the tip of an iceberg of other dangers that are available. So yeah.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.